is ask your customers, and they will tell you how good you are, and how you improve their lives, and how you save them time, and how you make them money, and how you make them look good to their customers. And so I think you deserve more revenue. And further to that, they deserve to benefit from your value more. More people deserve to benefit from the great things that you do. And you deserve to benefit from the money that they can pay you for that. And so if we're in this world to help people, which I believe, a firm believer in that, then don't we owe it to people to help them more, meaning sell them more? And don't we owe it to more people who aren't currently working with us or buying from us to help them more? There's a whole world of prospects out there that have no idea that you exist. And for most of us, it's a pretty big world. Now, there's people on this webinar that either own or are very high up in companies that are several $100 million in revenue. Because I see your names and I know many of you that are here. And even at your companies, where you have hundreds and hundreds of customers, and maybe even thousands of customers, there is a much larger world of prospects that don't even know you exist. You're a best kept secret. And those people deserve to benefit from your work as much as your current customers do. And so we owe it to them to tell them how we can help them. Now, the key to growing business is the very few words that are on the screen right now. First of all, we have to know how good we are. We have to be aware of our great value, which means we have to hear it from our customers. We cannot sit down at our desk and simply write down and decide that we are good and why. I mean, we can, but that's hard to believe because it's us telling it to ourselves. Or if you are the owner, it's not as simple as telling your people that they're good and the great things you do. What needs to happen is we all of us need to hear it from our customers. Because when the customer says, you're wonderful, you save them time, you make them money, you save them money, you make them look good to their customers, you make their lives easier, you help them get repeat business, you help them sleep at night. And this is all things that customers tell me when I interview them for my clients. I do this all the time. I've interviewed thousands of customers for my clients. And then I record those calls. And then I let my clients hear them in the workshops that I do for them in introducing my revenue growth program and some of the techniques we're going to talk about on this webinar. So we have to know how good we are. And then we have to behave accordingly, which is to say boldly. We have to behave boldly with confidence. Once again, we are not lucky that this customer picked up the phone. The customer is lucky we're talking to him because we could be talking to 100 other people right now, and we're not. We're taking the time to call him. Isn't he lucky? Because look at the great ways that we help them. If you believe in your value, then everything is easier. It's easier to pick up the phone. It's easier to ask for the business. It's easier to ask for the referral. It's easier to ask for the testimonial. So we have to know how good we are, and that comes from our customers. Now that that's done, let's take a look at the time of the year on the calendar right now. It's July 7th today, which means there's about half a year left to go. So it's the start of the third quarter, it's the start of the second half, and it's really a perfect time to implement some new approaches and some new thinking for your sales and for your business, which is why we're doing this webinar today. It's been 6 months since I've done the last webinar. Let's see. Shiri asks, will you have the slides available at the end? I will email the slides to attendees. There will be a 3-question survey form that pops up at the end. If you fill that out for me, I'll send you the slides, okay? I'll make a deal that way. So the answer is yes. And Jennifer Brown says, good morning. Good morning to you, Jen. It's halftime on the year. And so I'd like to ask you these 3 questions. Number 1, what are your top 3 priorities to accomplish in the final 6 months of the year? This is what I'd like you to do. We don't have time to go through. Yesterday, I was doing a full-day workshop for a client, for a number of clients together. And we did this as an exercise. People wrote down their own, and then then they got together in small groups and discussed it, and then they presented their own to the whole room. So we don't have time for an exercise like that. But what I'd like you to do is sometime today or tomorrow to sit down at your desk, and probably the best time is right after this webinar. And maybe a good time is right now, as I go on through the next couple of slides. Your top 3 priorities that you would like to accomplish before the year ends in the next 6 months. They could be sales priorities, they could be marketing priorities, they could be personal priorities. Maybe you want to lose 10 pounds. I don't know. Maybe you want to get the remodeling project done that you've been thinking about or started. Top 3 priorities that you would like to accomplish in the last 6 months of the year. Number 2, what may keep you from accomplishing them? So I'd like you to anticipate the obstacles that might come up. What might happen or not happen that would keep you from doing it? Maybe you'll be interrupted. Maybe you'll forget to think about it. Maybe you don't have the people for it and you have to hire them. Maybe you'll procrastinate. What will the obstacles be? Because you know what they're going to be. If you think about it for 30 seconds, you know exactly what will get in the way of you doing this stuff that you need to do. And number 3, how will you overcome these potential obstacles? So if you feel that procrastination is a reason you won't get to this important priority, then how will you overcome it? Will you make yourself work on it for 10 minutes every morning? Will you force yourself to pick up the phone and make one call? And if you don't, you can't leave your desk. So how will you overcome these potential obstacles? And here are the 3 questions together. What are your top 3 priorities for the remainder of 2016? What obstacles may keep you from doing them? And how will you overcome these obstacles? When the webinar ends, I'd like you to come back to this slide, slide number 12, or take a screenshot of it now, and answer these questions, because I think they're really, really important. It's a great time to be thinking about these questions right now. Another thing to be thinking about right now, and we just 2016 is enough, we don't need 2. And as I always say, it's not about perfection. It's about doing it. Go back to everybody who told you no in 2016. It is a great technique, and it doesn't have to be the middle of the year to do this. In fact, it doesn't have to be the start of the 3rd quarter. It really only has to be a different day, because all we need is any reason to go back. One of the things we're going to talk about today is perseverance and resilience and trying again. And in our world, in sales and growing sales, which is the world that we operate in, I'm assuming since you're on the webinar, no, we hear a lot of no's. We hear no all the time, right? We're rejected most times. And that's okay, because we only need to succeed a little bit to do really, really well. So in sales, the answer no never means no forever. It never means no forever. It only means not at this moment, not right now. The timing wasn't right, the customer's mindset wasn't right, perhaps your offer wasn't right, perhaps your pricing wasn't right. Who knows? But it's never no forever. It's only no, not right now. Not at this moment. And so we must give people another moment to say yes. That's on us. That's not the customer's fault if we don't give them another moment and they don't buy. We have to keep giving people moments. I can tell you that in my business, here's some insider information about Alex's business. In my business, I have generated multiple millions of dollars in revenue with customers that have told me no at first. How about that? And there was a time in my business where most of the customers I was working with at that time had told me no previously. I don't care. What do I care? I'm going to tell you a cool story about perseverance, a personal story, a little bit later in the webinar. But look at everybody who's told you no this year. And what the heck? Look at the people who told you no last year too. And go back to them and say, Tom, listen, it's the second half of the year. And the last time we talked, it was the first half of the year. It was February. It was April. Who cares? It was yesterday. It's a new day. It's a new half. It's a new quarter. How are you doing with that? What's happening? Did you address that issue? Did you resolve that? What else do you have going on? Because who cares if that other thing isn't on the table anymore? What about now? What's going on with you now? How can I help? It's interesting. Customers that we work with on an ongoing basis that buy from us regularly, and also prospects that bought from us once but not in a while. Folks, they forget about us. They don't think about us. We think about them, and we think about us, of course, because who doesn't think about themselves, right? We're constantly working on our own stuff, on our own issues, on our own priorities, on our own goals, on our own sales work, on our own products. We're all working on our stuff, right? So are they. So they're not thinking about us. So we must remind them. This grows sales, this decreases attrition. Customer attrition is a function of marketing. We're not communicating enough. The competition is. We're not. Competition fills the silence with their communication, so the customer goes to them. So go back to everyone who said no in 2016 and say, listen, it's a new half. Where are you at? How can I help? Now, some of you might have seen this quote before if you've been to any of my workshops. I like this quote a lot. Henry Ford, who invented the automobile, as we know it today, said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And a lot of the sales work that we do is about beliefs. A lot of the work I do for clients is about how they think about their products and their services. And so I need you guys to believe that you can. You need for yourself to believe that you can. Because if you do, the chance of succeeding is much, much higher than if you believe that you cannot. I would bet my children's college money, which is a lot of very important money, that if you believe that you cannot, you won't. I mean, I could guarantee it, right? Money back guarantee. If you believe you can't, you absolutely won't. But if you believe you can, that doesn't mean you will, but the chances are much higher. So a lot of this sales work that we do, this revenue growth, is about beliefs. And that's why I think this quote is really cool. Now, one of the things that was promoted in my write-up about this webinar were these 9 critical growth attitudes. And so what I've done over the last year or so is I've distilled the mindset of my clients who are the most successful at growing their business. So my typical client grows by 10 to 20% when they work with me. Some clients, and these tend to be larger companies, 50 million and up. My most typical client is 100 million and up in revenue. Now I do work with smaller companies than that, but my typical client, my median client, is let's say 100 million to a $250 million. And I've looked at what separates the clients that grow the most from those that grow the least. Nobody does this work in shrinks, but some people grow less and some people grow more. And so I looked at what separates the two. And it really comes down to beliefs and attitudes. And so I've distilled them down into these 9. The nice thing about these 9 attitudes is they can be learned. So you can teach yourself to think this way. These things are ways to think and ways to behave. And you can teach yourself this. So this is teachable. I can teach it and you can learn it. So here they are, one at a time. And I remind you that if you have a question or comment, go to your question and answer box on the GoToWebinar control panel and type in your question or comment. I'm watching that throughout the webinar, and I will read it and answer it or address it. Okay, 9 critical growth attitudes. Number 1, focus on your value, not your products and services. So tell me about how I will be improved as opposed to the thing that I'm buying from you. And it sounds basic, but so many of us focus on the product and the service when we sell. However, when I talk to your customers about you, when I talk to my clients' customers about them, the customer doesn't talk about the product. You know why? Because it's boring. The product is a commodity. I don't care if you sell pipes and valves or lumber, let's see, looking at the list here, or services, or HVAC, or outdoor power equipment, or castings. It doesn't matter what you sell because it's a commodity. The thing is a commodity and they can buy it from anybody. But they choose to buy it from you. Why? Not because of the thing, not because of the product. Yes, the product is good. The product has to be good, but everybody sort of is. If the product is terrible, that company doesn't hang around too long. The reason they stay are those examples I used several times early in the webinar. They stay because of the experience. They stay because of how you help them. They stay because you improve their lives and their companies, and you grow their business, and you increase their profit, and you help them sleep at night, and you bring them peace of mind. Folks, they stay because of the relationship. That is why they stay. The relationship. You. And so we must focus on that value rather than the product and the technical specifications. Many of you on this webinar have heard me say these things many times. You've heard me speak. Some of you have been clients. You've read it in my book. You read it in my newsletters once a week. You watch it on my videos once a week. You've seen this and heard this many times. That doesn't mean you're doing it, though. There is a difference between knowing what to do and doing it. And the difference is in the application, is in the discipline of doing what we know. And so focus your own mindset, your own attitude on your value. Yes, talk about the products at some point, but focus your attitude on how you help people and then talk about that. Present that, because the competition isn't. Focus on your value, not your products and services. Number 2, confidence, not uncertainty and doubt. There has been lots of research that shows that confident salespeople outperform those who are doubtful, who are uncertain. And so confidence is a way of thinking, and confidence translates behaviorally into boldness. Boldness is how we behave. Number 3 here. So confidence is about thinking. Boldness is about behavior. The opposite of boldness is meekness. How does boldness manifest itself? By picking up the phone, by asking for the business, by not worrying about offending, by not thinking you're stepping on anybody's toes, but rather you're bringing great value. That would be confidence. By knowing how good you are and then behaving accordingly, boldly. See, revenue growth is no place for meekness. We cannot be meek and grow revenue. We must be bold. We must be completely convinced of our great value. That's the confidence part. And then we must present it very boldly. And so think about yourself as a customer. Do you like to buy from people who are meek, who are uncertain? You know those phone calls that we got, the cold calls, from the person who hates cold calling? Somebody just got a new job, and they've been trained, and they're reading from a script, and you get that call on your cell phone or at home, and they immediately dive into a 2-minute pitch, and you say, no, thank you. And they say, okay, all right. And they're defeated, and they're meek, and that person has no chance to get your business. So we must be bold. Let's see here. I checked the comments. You say to go back and talk to people who have previously said no. What do you recommend when you lose a large amount of business to a competitor who lowballed to get it, and the former customer will not tell you if they are still satisfied with the lowball competitor? Let that person suffer and struggle for a while who took the lowball offer. Let them experience life without you for a while, and then go back to that person, or if that person won't talk to you, go back to somebody that he or she works with and ask them how it's going. Because chances are, even, you might even do nothing, and they'll come back to you, because the lowballer usually comes with lowball service and lowball relationship. So give that thing a little time. How much unpaid time should a seller spend on average educating themselves about both their company's value and studying the art of selling? Well, you need to, that's called getting good at your job. This is a question from, I think, Shiri, if I'm saying it right. You have to get that, that's called sort of being good at what you do. And so what you're doing now, paid or unpaid, is getting better at sales. So you should spend as much time as necessary to get really good at it, or at least see if you can. Number 4, optimism, not pessimism. This is a big thing here. There is a whole field of psychology that is headed by Martin Seligman that is all about the field is called positive psychology, which is the study of things that make us happy and successful, as opposed to all the rest of psychology, which is the study of what makes us screwed up and what makes us depressed and anxious or worse. So psychology throughout history has been about problems and issues. And Martin Seligman, who heads up the psychology department at the University of Pennsylvania, who's in his 80s now, who I studied when I was in college studying psychology. I was a psychology major. And then I spent a year at a psychology doctoral program, which I quit because it wasn't for me. And I'm going to reference Martin Seligman again in a moment. But his research, along with his rather wide, large group of students who are now leading researchers of their own, have found that the optimistic salesperson always outperforms the pessimistic salesperson. And this comes back to this quote by Henry Ford, which said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. If you think you can, you're optimistic. If you think you can't, you're pessimistic. And so I like that here. If you believe you're going to get the business when you go into your sales call, if you're optimistic about it, there's a real chance that you'll get it. If you go in pessimistic, believing that you won't get the business, I can guarantee that you won't. It simply won't happen. You won't have the lightness of mind. You won't have the agility in your thinking. You won't have the openness to the possibility of getting the business. You're going to be closed off to it. You're not going to think through things with the customer or the prospect because you're pessimistic about the thing. And so there's a great chance it won't work. So be optimistic. If you've got to sell, if you've got to call the customer, if you've got to deal with the prospect, then you might as well believe you're going to succeed, because you have to do the work anyway, right? You've got to make the call. You've got to go to the meeting. You've got to do this. So you might as well believe that you're going to be successful. Why the heck not? Let's see, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 5. People who grow revenue the best display and experience gratitude, which is the opposite of fear and cynicism. And let me give you a couple of examples. I was born in the former Soviet Union. I came here when I was 2 years old. I talk about this a lot. There is not a day that goes by that I'm not grateful to be doing my work here in America. I live in the Chicago area, which I find to be the most entrepreneurial country in the world. I just wrote about this in my newsletter on the 4th. I am grateful for the opportunity to work here and to succeed here, and when necessary, to struggle here, which I consider a great privilege, to struggle here. I am grateful. I am grateful for my family, which I could never have if I weren't living here. That's who I work for. I am grateful that there are prospects who are interested in my work. I am grateful, even though the customer is the lucky one when we talk about his or her business. I am grateful for that opportunity to have that conversation. I really am. I appreciate it. I value it. And so the opposite of that is being fearful and being cynical. Another call, right? another screaming customer, another time suck where I need to be doing this other stuff. That's the opposite of gratitude. It's appreciation versus cynicism, the word on the screen. So be grateful. Gratitude, also research has shown, leads to far more sales success than those who go without it. Now, one of my favorites, perseverance. Perseverance means multiple efforts, not a single effort. We already touched on it with those who have told us no and to go back to them. So this is the last quote of the webinar, and many of you have seen this if you've seen my work. Thomas Edison, who knows something about failure, who knows something about perseverance, said that many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. Now, I love that. I love that because many times in our work of revenue growth, we have to try again. Now, there are more than one of you on this webinar that have told me no to a project first. And maybe we still haven't worked together. But you know what? We will. I know that. We will. And so you've experienced my perseverance. I have no discomfort with that. I am not too proud for that. I am simply offering more people more of my value. And my clients who do best, think about it this way. In perseverance, we are demonstrating to the customer or to the prospect that we remain interested in helping them. That's what we're doing. We're not imposing. We're not bothering. We're not taking their time. We're not intruding. We're not stepping on their toes. You should have no fear of this, because if they experience it that way, that's not your problem. That's their problem. That's not your problem. And so all we're doing is demonstrating that we remain interested in helping people. So persevere. Try again. And I mentioned Martin Seligman. He and I were speaking together a couple of years ago in New York, and at the same event. And he said that in his research, this is the founder of positive psychology, one of the founders of all of behavioral psychology, which is the rats pushing the levers for the pellets of food that come out. And this is basically looking at reinforcement and what makes us do things. And so he was a student when behavioral psychology was formulated in the 60s. And today, he's the founder of positive psychology. And Seligman has researched perseverance and resilience. And what he's learned, what he's found is that these two words on the screen are actually twice as important in the equation to success as talent is. Now, how cool is that? Another way of looking at it is that perseverance and resilience is 2/3 of the equation to success, and talent is 1/3. That's how powerful trying again is. You could be half the talent of the next guy. But if you persevere and don't quit and try again, which is critical in sales work, in this revenue growth work that we do, if you simply can get yourself to try again, you will succeed more than the person who's twice as talented but half as perseverant. Now, I think that's pretty cool. It's kind of the great equalizer, isn't it? We check for comments. Chris Newton, do you have any specific tips for those of us who work in professional and consulting services? I do. Bear with me. All of this applies to you. And in professional services, I think that trying again and the repeated effort is precisely the thing that will separate you from the competition. Okay, here comes a story. When my children were born, my wife and I planted 2 trees. They were 2 maple trees that are on the screen right now. That's our old house. And there's the trees 2 years ago. Oh, excuse me, last year. Here's the trees last year at the old house. Now, last year we moved to a new home, and then we put that home on the market. And I wanted to bring the trees with me. The problem is that I thought people could come with shovels and dig up my trees, and they can go to the new house. And we planted the trees when the kids were born, so 7 years ago, and did a ceremony out there. So these are really important trees to me, and I decided to move them. And so what I learned was it's not that simple. It's hard to move bigger trees. These trees aren't that big, as you can see, but you can't just come and dig them up. What you need is a truck that looks like this, and that's called a hydraulic tree spade. And what happens is those blades around the root of the root ball here of the tree, they water shoots down them as they dig themselves into the earth, and they pick up the whole root ball of the tree, and it shifts the tree horizontally onto the bed of the truck and drives it to its new location. So we moved first, and then we sold the old house, and then the closing was coming up, and I had been trying to locate somebody with one of these trucks to move that tree for us, move the two trees to the new house. Well, nobody would do it. We have about a dozen of these companies in the northern half of Illinois, which is where I live in Chicago, and nobody would agree to move these trees because these people do parking lots and golf courses and parks, right? They do corporate grounds, and they didn't want to drive this truck, which is the size and weight of a cement mixer, into my backyard to pick up my puny little trees. And so they were telling me maybe you should buy a couple of trees that would cost you a lot less than moving them, a fraction. By the way, I could have bought a whole forest for what they were charging me to move these trees. And so I'm talking to my wife, and she says, honey, maybe you should give it up. Maybe it's not meant to move these trees. And I talked to my parents, and they said, maybe you should give it up. And the tree guys said, maybe you should give it up. I didn't want to give it up. I wanted the trees. I wanted them here. So I start calling. I exhaust the 12 companies. And by the way, one finally told me yes. And on the night before they were going to move these trees, I remember it was a Friday night and they were coming on Saturday to do this. They emailed me. On the night before, they emailed me. This is now 2 or 3 days before the closing. And as soon as we close on the old house, the trees are gone. They're become the property of the new owner. Anyway, he emailed me to cancel the night before. So now I've got 2 or 3 days. I've exhausted the companies in Illinois who have all told me no. And I go to tree movers in Wisconsin, just north of the border. And I call another half dozen, and I finally find a guy who actually feels bad for me. I talked to his wife for a small little company, talked to his wife, then I talked to him, and they feel bad for me. And this makes me happy because I'm making a little bit of progress. And the guy gets in his truck and drives down about 3 hours. This was about an hour north of Milwaukee, this company. So if you know the area, it's far. Drives his big old truck down, charges me by the hour, and here's the tree coming out of the old house, and here it is going to its new spot at the new house. Here's the other one arriving, and there they are, closest to the sidewalk. The day before the close on the old house, we got the trees here. And on the day that they got here, my wife said to me, honey, I don't know anybody who would have persevered enough to move these trees except for you. They were important to me. I wanted these trees. The kids wanted these trees. I had already been rejected, let's say, 15 times. So who cares about another 3, really? What am I risking at that point? Who cares? What does it matter? Revenue growth is the same way. Keep working. Keep being present. Keep offering your help until the moment is right. And the one thing we don't have control over is the moment. We don't have control over the customer's situation and their various variables and conditions. So we don't have control over that. But we do have control over our behavior. And what we need to do is systematically be in front of our customers and our prospects until that moment is right. So in my work, I arm companies with the systems, with a system of communication, so that we never have to guess at what the right moment is. If we systematically communicate, we don't have to guess what the right moment is because we're in front of people all the time. And so we give people a back scratcher and we place it on their desk. And when their moment is right, they pick up the back scratcher with our name on it, and they scratch their itch. We never have to try to call at the precise moment they have an itch. That's not the game with my approach. We help them with our great value systematically, relentlessly, until they get an itch, and then they pick up the back scratcher, and then they scratch the itch. Picking up the pace now, we have 3 more. The most successful revenue growers uncommoditize, which means they focus on the relationship and not the price. Everything here is designed, everything I teach, the actions, all of the actions that I teach are designed to make you stand out from the crowd. And the only way to stand out from the crowd is to focus not on the stuff, and not on the price, but on the relationship. Revenue growth requires proactive efforts. So we must make time for this work. The opposite of proactive effort is reactive effort, which is how most of us spend our days. Most people spend most of their days reacting to the concerns of customers. And so the people who make a little bit of time, 15 minutes a day is all I need from you, 15 minutes a day. Those are the people that grow business the easiest and the fastest and the most. And I have here escaped the problem-solving circle. The problem-solving circle looks like this. Customer calls. Customer needs something immediately. Customer never calls when the customer needs something in 3 months. Because, hey, listen, take your time. Get it to me in November, okay? Don't worry about it. Just take it easy. And when November rolls around, get it here. You don't get those calls. Say, I need it tomorrow, or I needed it yesterday, or you screwed it up. Fix it. Make it right. Or you sent me the wrong product. Or my guys are standing around at $150 an hour. Where is it? And so you must solve that problem. And as soon as we resolve the problem, what happens next? Next problem comes, right? Next call comes. Next issue comes. Inside sales, outside sales, managers, executives, owners. It's like this for all of us. We spend our days reacting in a problem-solving circle. Extract yourself from it for just a little while every day. That's what we must do to grow business strategically. It's possible that business grows within the problem-solving circle, depending on which problems come. But you can't plan on that. You're just a pinball bouncing around from one reaction to the next. Can't plan on that. So the proactive effort is what's plannable. We can build strategy around that. We can expect to grow when that happens. The last one here is action. The last growth attitude is action, not perfection, not procrastination. It doesn't need to be perfect in revenue growth. And that's a key difference between growing revenue and growing and working on your products. The products need to be close to perfect. The sales growth actions, the marketing, does not have to be perfect. It only has to be helpful. It only has to be useful to the recipient. And once it's helpful, get it out. Don't perfect it. It doesn't matter if it's perfect. Every now and then, people let me know I've made a spelling error in my many helpful communications. I live with that. That's okay with me. I don't think about those for very long because I focus on action. And so the flip side, quantity trumps quality. In revenue growth, quantity trumps quality. The more that people hear from us, the more they buy from us. The less they hear, the less they buy. Here are all 9 growth attitudes together. Here they are in one slide. And if you fill out the survey at the end of the webinar, I will get this to you. And if you come to my free half-day workshop, which is going to be pure value like this webinar is, we're going to talk about this some more. Okay? Questions in the Q&A box. We've got 15 minutes. Let's talk about practical tools, practical ways to grow your business. We need 2 parallel tracks of communication. We need to have a one-on-one track, which is what most of these techniques will be, and then I'm going to give you 2 approaches to the company-to-many track along the bottom. This blob here, that's your list. This customer prospect up here is also down here. And as I said, the more that these people hear from you, the more they buy from you. And what I do for my clients is create this system, this process. I build it out for them. And then we create accountability to make sure that people in the business, sales, inside and outside, managers and executives, are all doing their little communication. And the beauty is, when they do their little communication all together, there's this groundswell that happens, and people hear from you exponentially. And when they hear from you exponentially, they buy exponentially more. That's pretty cool. Number one, obtain testimonials. Hear from your customers how good you are. We must ask for testimonials without using the word. When we use the word, people get stressed out. Oh God, I can't think of a testimonial. Well, don't worry about a testimonial. What are some of your favorite things about working with us? And why did you say that? How does that help you? Well, I know that when I call you, there's always going to be somebody there to get back to me. Well, how does that help you when that happens? Why is that important to you? Well, it helps to save me time. Well, how much time does it save? I'm just curious. Now you're just having a conversation. You're just having a chat. You're capturing it. Once we have the testimonials, number two, we must communicate them. We must use testimonials. Folks, putting them on your website is not enough. It's not enough to simply put them on your website. What we ought to do is communicate them a little more actively than that. That's passive communication. We should communicate them a little more actively. Here are 3 ways. Number one, bring some of your testimonials to a meeting and hand them to the person you're meeting with. And say, listen, we've got some customers similar to you. Here is what they say about us. Thought you might be interested in this. Now let's bring you the same value. Number two, inside your company, use testimonials to change mindsets, to motivate people, and to infuse positivity into your business. If you want people to do new work, show them how good they are, not how bad they are. Show them how much they're valued, how much they're respected, make them proud. Many of my clients tell me that when you work with most consultants, which I don't have much experience with other consultants, I just know my stuff. When you work with other consultants, they typically tell you what you're doing wrong and tear stuff down. And my reply to that is that's probably why they're not very successful. I don't come in to tell you what you're doing wrong. I come in to tell you what you're doing right. And I show you that in your customers' words. And then I ask you to take some simple actions every day to sell more to more people, to help more people more. So use these testimonials internally. I have clients who put them on the walls. I have clients who put them at the front desk. I have clients who circulate them every day by email. Keep them in front of your people and make it a part of the regular conversation. Number three, send an email with a testimonial attached. Tom, listen, we have a customer similar to you, and here's what they have to say about us. Paste the testimonial. Paste it in. And then say, let's talk about bringing you the same value. Now, what do you say? What's better for you, Tuesday or Thursday? There is nothing you can say that is as good as that testimonial. Number four, paste your testimonials into quotes and proposals. My qualitative experience, and it would be quantitative too if I were to quantify it, but I haven't. But my qualitative experience is that quotes and proposals with testimonials close better than and more than quotes and proposals without testimonials. The close rate goes up. So use them. That's 4 ways to use testimonials. Next, ask the did you know question. Did you know we also do X or Y or Z? The typical customer is only consciously aware of about 20% of all of what they can buy from you. Now, how tragic is that? They'd like to buy it from you. You would like to sell it to them. They probably buy it from somebody else. They need it, so they buy it elsewhere, but they'd like to buy it from you. And of course, you would like to sell it to them. But none of that is possible because they don't know. So we must tell them when we talk on the phone, when we see them, when we email them. We must tell them, did you know we also do X or Y or Z? Did you know I do sales kickoff meetings? Did you know I do keynote speeches and workshops? Did you know I do large consulting projects, but that I also offer a remote revenue growth experience done by webinar for small businesses? Did you know that? Customer says, no, I didn't know that. Pivot to the sale. Pivot. and say, would you like to talk about that now, or should we schedule something for Thursday? Or you can say, would you like me to add it to this order, or should I write it up separately? That's the boldness that we need. That's the confidence that we need. Don't ask the did you know question and go home happy when they say, no, I didn't know. Pivot to the business. Ask for the sale. Ask for the business. That's the did you know question. The reverse did you know question is relatively new, and I don't think I've ever talked about it in a webinar before, because it's less than 6 months old, I think. The reverse did you know question is like this: Tom, what else are you buying elsewhere that I might be able to help you with? Isn't that cool? What are you buying elsewhere that I might be able to help you with? Because we both know that one PO is better than two. And you know I'll be just as good at it as I am at this other stuff we do. And when Tom tells you what he buys, a different product or a different service, pivot to the sale. Should we talk about that now? Would you like me to add it to this order? Well, why don't we try that from us? That's how this works, guys. Quote and proposal follow-up. The easiest and the fastest way to grow business with my approaches is this technique here. Follow up on your existing quotes and proposals. The people that don't tell us yes tend to be silent. Follow up. Show them you're interested. Be there. Be present. Show them that you care. When we moved into this house, we got some proposals for an installation job. I'd never done insulation before, so 3 companies came, quoted it. 1 company followed up. Guess which company got the business? The one that followed up. Guess which one was the most expensive? The one that followed up. The lowest hanging fruit you have is the proposals that you've already sent. Now, Robert wants to know, if you don't have testimonials yet, what do you recommend in the meantime? Robert, I recommend you go out and get them. And you ask people that question. What are some of your favorite things about working with us? If you ask your happy customers that question, they will tell you. And at the end of that, you ask them, is it okay with you if we use some of your comments in our materials? That's how to do this. Another great question. Tom, what percentage of your business do we currently have, would you guess? Tom says 20%. You say, what would it look like to make it 30%? I would like to make it 30%. Cool approach. Works really nice. It's a small increase for them, but it grows our business with them by 50%. Of course, obtaining referrals is a big one. And don't forget, there's multiple pathways to obtain referrals. You can get a referral from a customer at another company to another company, or from a customer to another person at the same company, a lateral referral. Or within your own company, you can do referrals among your staff, from one salesperson to another. And you might also get or ask for referrals from your vendors. This is an extremely underutilized tactic because most people don't have the confidence and the boldness to ask. And if we ask, we get. Have you guys ever been in a social setting where somebody asked for the name of a chiropractor or a painter for the house? People trip over themselves referring their person. Trip over themselves. People love giving referrals. People argue with each other so that you use their guy. All we have to do is ask. But we don't, so they don't give. Okay, 2 quick ones for the company to many track. Grow your lists. Those are the kinds of people that should be on a good list. And then send a good newsletter. A good newsletter goes out every 2 weeks. Not once a month, every 2 weeks. And it has 3 parts. An article of value, a testimonial, and a did you know question. So I promised you 6 techniques to grow business. And I believe I gave you more like 12 to 14 of them. You're very welcome. I hope you found them valuable. I know I'm going quick, but it's a 1-hour webinar. This stuff happens over a day and sometimes over multiple days. I have clients that we do the kind of material here, much more, obviously, much deeper, more exercises, more details, over 3 full days over the course of 1 year, 3 separate days spread out over the course of a year. So now we got to talk about action. You guys have to do this stuff. You have to do some of this. We must under plan and over execute. You must do. You must ask for testimonials and communicate them. You must follow up on quotes and ask the did you know question. You must ask the reverse did you know question and the what % of your business do we have question. Don't worry about perfection. Just worry about getting it out there and helping people. And my most successful clients consistently and relentlessly execute communications. All of the techniques that I gave you just now, all of them, every one of them, is just an excuse to communicate. It's a way to communicate because the more that people hear from us, the more they buy from us. None of this stuff takes very long, 15 minutes or less, usually much less. Most of the techniques we talked about today take just 30 seconds, a minute. That's what we're talking about. And you have that. You have that. Make it a part of the regular conversation at your company, guys. If you want to implement this work, it's got to become a part of the conversation. You can't introduce it and then go away from it. In fact, if you want to make any change at your company or with yourself, you have to stick at it, stay at it. Make it a part of the conversation. I remind you that most of what we talked about is in the book. I remind you that there is a free half-day workshop exactly 2 months from today, September the 7th, 9 a.m. in Chicago. There's going to be a registration page put up. I'm going to ask for a small donation to some charity, maybe the animals, I don't know, maybe something else. But I'm going to ask for $50, no more than that, because even a small commitment to make sure that people come when it's completely free. People say yes, and then there's a chair for them, and then something comes up that's more important. So we'll have a small commitment, but no more than $50. Incredible value for free. And when I end the webinar, folks, there's going to be a 3-question feedback form. If you fill it out and send it back to me, I will send you these slides, okay? Also, I've recorded this webinar, and I will circulate the link if you want to review it again. Thank you very, very much for being here. Bill Sanders, you're welcome. And thank you for your time. I hope you found it a valuable hour. Jessica, you're welcome. My pleasure. And please look for the feedback form when the webinar ends. And please fill it out and get it back to me, and I will send you the slides. Have a wonderful day. Happy revenue growth in the second half of the year. And I wish you all the best. Thanks for being here.